You want to know what spare parts you want to have for your Mi9? I'm going to run through the car and tell you exactly what spare parts I recommend. So what spare parts you are carrying in your pit bag just depends on the level of racer you are. And I want to divide it in maybe two levels, like a beginner or a pro, or intermediate or a pro, and just have a difference of spare parts then with you. So as a beginner, you maybe have harder crashes or harder impacts, maybe not, and maybe you drive a different class than a pro. I use my car in modified, and modified will actually have maybe different spare parts than a stock class. However, then again, if you are a beginner, I would suggest on a bit more spare parts or a bit different spare parts than when you're a pro. As a beginner, I would just suggest to have some of the more weak or more vulnerable parts to have in spare. And I think the top deck is something that has some thin stuff, some thin carbon, and which could break easily. I tried the CF split top deck, and I also tried the S2 top deck, but the kit top deck is the one-piece top deck. I would suggest on bringing a spare just in case you have a hard frontal hit. These can break with a hard frontal hit. Also, I would suggest just having a pair of belts as spare and a lot of bearings or some bearings as spare. Just because some marbles or dirt or other things can weaken or just damage the belts, or you can even break a belt. So I would suggest on bringing a set of belts and bringing a set of bearings. If you don't have maintenance on your bearings, or you just have a hard impact, some of these bearings will break, and I would just suggest having a piece of a bearing set with you. I think the carbon shock towers are really strong and really durable. You can put some of them, of just one piece of each, in your pit bag, but I don't know if it's necessary. The rear body supports, you think they may be vulnerable or weak. However, Schumacher was really smart and made these out of 4mm carbon instead of maybe the 2mm carbon top deck. These are 4mm carbon and really strong and durable. I run these extra posts. Schumacher are going to provide themselves a set. I'm going to make some sets too. And with a hard impact on the rear end, it could be possible that my carbon will break. However, when I don't run these, the rear end is much more supported, and I don't think these will break in a crash. 4mm carbon is really, really strong. The turnbuckles are alloy, which reduces the weight, but are a bit weak. You can change them for titanium ones. Schumacher provides these, but you could also have just one or two of these small ones in spare. We had some really hard crashes in modified on small tracks or with tracks with hard barriers, and we had one or two snapped these on the Mi8, but these were tremendous crashes. So you could choose to swap them for titanium or just have a spare set in your toolbox. I've never broken a rear arm or a lower arm actually. I always carried them in spare, but I never used them, never on the Mi7 or 8 or 9. I have carried them in spare, but I've actually never broken one. So you could add them to your toolbox, but I wouldn't really suggest on it. Then again, the drive shafts, I haven't run them a lot yet, but I think these drive shafts are really, really durable. I wouldn't suggest on an extra set. You could just put an extra set in, but I don't think it's necessary. However, the little clips and little pins of the drive shafts are easy to lose when you're wrenching or when you're changing something or having maintenance on the drive shafts. So I would suggest on some spare clips, some spare E-clips, and on some spare pins, just in case you lose them. So, and I actually think that's it. All the other spare parts I would suggest is just tires and bodies and have fun in driving if you're just a beginner or intermediate driver. As a pro driver, I would suggest having a little bit more, mainly just because you want to have higher standards, mainly because you have higher standards of your car or anything else. I would suggest you have an extra chassis plate just in case you make a hard hit and you want to change the chassis. And I want to suggest as a pro driver, you maybe have an extra set of shocks so you can easily switch between different settings on your shocks. I would suggest carrying an extra rear differential, maybe 2 or 3, so you can change different oils in your differential. I would suggest on carrying different top decks, but it's mainly all for setting up and making different changes on track. But as a pro driver, I don't think you need any extra parts to carry, just more to set the car up. So this is my recommendation of spare parts you can carry in your toolbox for driving your Mi9. Maybe I forgot something, please let me know in the description down below. And if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I thank you for watching. See you again.